Trump thought his decades of television dominance and media manipulation would shield him from any congressional representative, especially one he dismissed as a freshman from Texas, with no real experience in national politics. But when Jasmine Crockett quietly placed 3 sealed envelopes on the CNN interview table and asked with measured precision if he'd like to explain the documents before she opened them, the next 18 minutes would expose contradictions so devastating that even his most experienced crisis management attorneys couldn't spin them away. The invitation to appear together on CNN's flagship program State of the Union had seemed strategically perfect for everyone involved in the complex dance of American political media. The network desperately wanted the ratings that only Trump could deliver in an era of fragmented attention spans and endless streaming options. A joint interview with a rising Democratic star promised to combine controversy with substance, delivering the kind of appointment television that networks dream about. Their executives had spent weeks negotiating the format, the topics, even the seating arrangements, knowing that this could be one of the most watched political interviews of the year. Trump wanted something different but equally valuable: the legitimacy that came from appearing alongside a sitting congresswoman, treating the interview as an opportunity to rehabilitate his image and demonstrate his continued relevance in American politics. His advisors had convinced him that sharing a platform with Jasmine would make him appear statesmanlike, willing to engage in serious policy discussions rather than just rallies and social media posts. They saw it as a chance to reach suburban voters who had drifted away during his tumultuous presidency, particularly college-educated women who might be impressed by his willingness to engage in substantive debate. Jasmine accepted the invitation for reasons that would soon become crystal clear to the 15 million Americans watching. She understood this might be her only chance to question directly the man she believed had betrayed the highest office. All right, buckle up, because I'm about to lay out a story that's gonna hit you like a freight train. This ain't just another political dust-up. It's a masterclass in how preparation, grit, and sheer brains can flip the script on even the biggest, loudest player in the game. We're talking about Donald Trump, the man who spent decades owning TV screens and bending media narratives to his will, thinking he could steamroll anyone, especially some freshman congresswoman from Texas with zero national clout. But when Jasmine Crockett slid into that CNN studio, dropped 3 sealed envelopes on the table, and coolly asked if he'd like to explain what was inside before she ripped them open, the next 18 minutes turned into a demolition derby of contradictions, so brutal even Trump's slickest crisis lawyers couldn't spin their way out. Let's dive into how this went down, step by step, with all the juicy tension and jaw-dropping turns. Picture this: CNN's flagship show, State of the Union, is the stage. The network execs are practically drooling over the ratings goldmine they've secured. In an age where attention spans are shorter than a TikTok clip, getting Trump on air is like striking oil, pure, unadulterated viewership. Pair him with a rising Democratic star like Jasmine Crockett, and you've got a recipe for must-watch TV. Controversy, check. Substance, maybe. Drama, hell yes. They spent weeks hammering out every detail, format, topics, even where the damn chairs would go, because they knew this could be the political interview of the year. 15 million Americans tuned in, popcorn ready, expecting fireworks. For Trump, this was a golden ticket to polish his tarnished image. His advisors had him convinced that sharing the spotlight with a sitting congresswoman would paint him as a statesman, not just some rally-ranting, Twitter-obsessed has-been. They saw it as a chance to woo back those suburban voters, especially college-educated women who'd slipped away during his chaotic presidency. "Show 'em you're serious, Don," they probably said. "Engage in real policy talk. Look presidential." For him, it was just another performance, another chance to dominate the narrative with that larger-than-life persona. Jasmine, though, she had a whole different game plan, one that had become crystal clear as the broadcast unfolded. This wasn't about ratings or political theater for her. Nah, this was personal. She saw Trump as a man who'd spat on the highest office in the land, who'd pushed American democracy to the brink, and somehow dodged accountability with legal loopholes and political muscle. To her, this wasn't just a TV slot. It was a rare shot to confront him face to face, armed with nothing but facts and principle, and show the world that preparation can still beat privilege. She wasn't there to play. She was there to slay. Now here's where it gets good. Trump's team thought they had this in the bag. They treated the interview like another episode of The Apprentice, just another stage for their boss to strut his stuff. They spent their prep time cooking up talking points on economic wins, brainstorming deflections for sticky topics, and rehearsing attack lines against Biden's crew. The night before, they huddled up strategizing how Trump could hog the airtime, interrupt when needed, and pivot to safe ground whenever things got dicey. It was all about control, baby. Dominate the convo, drown out the opposition, and walk away, looking like the big dog. Jasmine's prep night and day different. This woman, a former public defender from Dallas, brought the same ruthless, methodical grind she used to save innocent folks from life sentences in Texas courtrooms. For 3 weeks, she turned her life into a war zone of research. 18-hour days poring over documents, consulting constitutional scholars, grilling ex-White House staffers, and rehearsing her delivery until every word landed like a precision strike. Her tiny Dallas apartment became a command center. Papers everywhere, National Archives records, congressional testimonies, Justice Department filings, and legal analyses stacked high. She even had a timeline sprawled across her living room wall, connecting dots with a colored string, like some crime show detective. Neighbors swore they saw her lights on till 3 a.m., practicing questions and keeping her cool under imaginary pressure. This wasn't prep. This was obsession. The contrast was stark, even before the cameras rolled. In the green room, Trump was in his element, surrounded by a buzzing hive of 6 advisors, tossing out last-minute talking points, deflections, and media strategies. He was cracking jokes with makeup artists, bantering with camera crew, scrolling his phone for social media updates, basically working the room like a Vegas lounge act. To him, this was a breeze, just another day in the spotlight. His team egged him on. Dominate, like you always do, sir. Don't let some rookie congresswoman steer the ship. Confidence through the roof, arrogance even higher. Meanwhile, across the hall, Jasmine sat alone. No entourage, no hype squad, just her, a leather briefcase, and those 3 manila envelopes. She declined small talk, ignored distractions, and reviewed her notes one last time with laser focus. Those envelopes weren't just props. They were weapons, each packed with verified documents arranged for maximum impact. The makeup artist who worked on both later spilled to reporters how eerie the contrast felt. Trump yapped nonstop, joking about TV lighting and ratings, while Jasmine barely spoke, visualizing her moves like a chess grandmaster. She'd learned from trial vets that real battles are won before you even step into the ring, through prep so airtight your confidence is bulletproof. The CNN studio in D.C. was rigged for a showdown. Set designers picked a round mahogany table under warm lighting, casting dramatic shadows while keeping both players in clear view. 3 black leather chairs formed a tense triangle, Jake Tapper in the middle as the neutral ref, Trump and Jasmine facing off across the polished wood. 5 cameras caught every angle, close-ups for raw emotion, wide shots for context, and a roving lens for historic zooms. Audio engineers triple-checked mics to catch every word, every rustle of paper, every tense breath. The air was electric. Producers knew they might be witnessing history. Camera operators double-checked gear, terrified of missing a career-defining screw-up. Even the AC was set to a crisp 68 degrees, but the heat from nerves and studio lights made it feel like a pressure cooker. Veteran CNN staff, used to high-stakes gigs, still sensed something big was brewing. Trump swaggered in like he owned the place, and in a way he did. Decades of TV dominance gave him an aura of untouchability. Shoulders back, chest out, red tie, popping against a navy suit, picked for how it screams authority on camera. He was all kinetic energy, hands waving even before taping started. He schmoozed with camera operators, complimented lighting techs, and swapped ratings gossip with Tapper. His 6 advisors, parked in the front row, tablets and phones, ready for real-time damage control, projecting institutional muscle. This was Trump's turf, a studio stage where he'd built his brand and survived countless media gauntlets. His playbook: dominate with volume, deflect with aggression, and bury opponents under a barrage of talking points. Piece of cake. Jasmine's entrance couldn't have been more different. Navy blazer, no flash, just pure professionalism. Hair in a sleek, no-nonsense style, framing sharp, determined eyes. She carried only her briefcase and those 3 envelopes, placing them on the table with surgical precision, parallel to the edge, evenly spaced, a visual tease for the cameras. No handlers, no hype men, a solo act screaming self-reliance against Trump's army of spin doctors. Her hands stayed still. No fidgeting, no phone checking, just quiet readiness. She'd spent months prepping for this, studying Trump's every move, cataloging his deflections, and practicing composure under fire. Her confidence wasn't loud. It was lethal, rooted in knowing she'd outworked everyone in the room. America tuned in, expecting the usual Trump show: interruptions, deflections, and narrative control through sheer noise. They figured even a sharp journalist like Tapper would struggle to pin him down, let alone some newbie congresswoman. But what unfolded was a power flip so seismic it'd be replayed for months. This wasn't just a debate. It was a dissection, proving that in a democracy, truth and prep can still knock out wealth and swagger. The first few minutes played out like a Trump greatest hits reel. Tapper tried setting ground rules, but Trump bulldozed right in, launching into a monologue about his greatest economy ever and slamming the current admin. Jake, before we get to your gotcha questions, let me tell you what Americans really care about. He boomed, hands flailing for emphasis. It was vintage Trump: seize the mic, overwhelm with assertions, and leave no room for pushback. His advisors smirked from the sidelines, loving the familiar dominance. Then came the first jab at Jasmine. When Tapper tried to toss her a question on executive oversight, Trump scoffed, dripping condescension. Jake, with all due respect to the Congresswoman, what's she got? 2 years in Congress? 2 years in one Texas district? I ran the whole country for 4. I think I know a bit more about executive power than someone who's never stepped outside Texas politics. The dig was ruthless, questioning her creds, shrinking her scope, painting himself as the grown-up humoring a kid. His team grinned. They'd seen this playbook crush judges, generals, and journalists alike. But Jasmine, she'd seen this coming. Hours of footage had prepped her for this exact move. She knew getting defensive would play into his hands. So she waited, letting his smirk hang in the air, just long enough for viewers to feel the sting of his tone. Then, with a voice as steady as a judge's gavel, she fired back: Mr. Trump, experience without accountability isn't leadership. It's impunity. Boom. No heat, no drama, just a razor-sharp truth bomb that flipped the frame. She wasn't playing his game. She was rewriting the rules. His experience became a liability, and impunity hinted he'd dodged the law. Trump's team froze. This wasn't in the script. Her first question sliced like a scalpel. During your presidency, how many times were classified documents removed from the White House without proper authorization? Simple, conversational, but loaded with danger. Trump, sensing the trap, dodged hard. Ridiculous question. Every president takes work home. You think Obama didn't? Clinton didn't. That's how the job works when you're actually doing it, not just grandstanding in hearings. Classic move. Normalize attack, her standing jab at her inexperience. His advisors nodded, expecting her to chase the bait or flinch. Instead, she reached into her briefcase, slow, deliberate, pure theater, and pulled out the first document. Holding it up for the cameras, National Archives letterhead glaring, she dropped the hammer. According to these records, there were 847 unauthorized requests for classified documents during your administration, the highest in presidential history. The number hit like a sucker punch. Specifics sourced from a neutral agency, undeniable. The studio air shifted. Trump's forced chuckle sounded hollow. His eyes flicked to his team posture, slumping just a hair. Fake numbers, he barked. The archives are run by never-Trumpers. Witch hunt from day one. But the defense sounded thin against her calm, factual delivery. She jotted a note, casual but pointed, signaling she was building a case, not just sparring. Then came round 2. Interesting, you mentioned trust, Mr. Trump. Can I ask about your conversations with the Georgia Secretary of State in January 2021? She laid the second envelope on the table with a thud that echoed. Tension spiked. Everyone knew what Georgia meant, that infamous call to find votes. Trump leaned back, sweat beading, voice climbing. Perfectly legal conversation. I was protecting election integrity, something Democrats forgot how to do. Defensive, evasive eyes glued to that unopened envelope. She cracked it open, pulling out official transcripts with government seals. Specifically about finding votes. She said, stressing finding just enough to hint at legal peril. Official records show you used the word find 11 times in that call. In a legal context that constitutes solicitation to commit election fraud. Devastating. Precise. Documented. Trump's deflections about election security crumbled under the weight of hard evidence. His advisors scrambled on their phones, panic creeping in. He was flailing now, voice, shrill gestures wild. The final blow came when Trump cornered lashed out. This is a witch hunt from an angry congresswoman who can't accept I won an election. She'd never dream of winning. Pure desperation gendered personal unhinged. Jasmine let the silence stretch 5 agonizing seconds, letting his outburst marinate. Then, softer but firmer, Mr. Trump, I've never run for president, but I can speak to attempts to prevent legitimate elections from being certified. She slid the third envelope forward. Inside are communications between your staff and January 6th rally organizers. Internal messages showing prior knowledge of possible violence. Would you like to explain before I read them live to America? Trump was done. Sweat poured, hands shook, eyes begged his team for a lifeline, but there was none. Go ahead, read whatever fake documents you've got, he blustered, bravado crumbling. I've got nothing to hide. Famous last words. As she opened the envelope, pulling out highlighted emails dated January 4th, 2021, the power flip was complete. A freshman congresswoman armed with nothing but prep and principle had dismantled a media titan. 15 million watched history unfold, truth over bluster, facts over noise. This wasn't just an interview. It was a reckoning.